It was the kind of day you wish you could bottle. Crystal blue skies, the scent of sunscreen in the air, and the sound of water gently lapping against the pool's edge. No one could have guessed that within hours. Panic would replace the laughter, and a single phone call would change everything. The sunlight was warm but not oppressive, the kind that kissed your skin without leaving it burned. It shimmered on the surface of the pool, creating rippling diamonds that danced with every small splash. Around the patio, lounge chairs were arranged in a lazy semicircle, each occupied by someone soaking in the rare bliss of a day without obligations. The air was rich with the mingled scents of freshly grilled burgers from a nearby barbecue, coconut sunscreen, and blooming jasmine from the garden wall. I sat near the shallow end, my legs dangling in the cool water, enjoying the simple rhythm of dipping my toes in, pulling them out, then watching the droplets fall back into the pool. My sister, Emily, was stretched out on a striped chair beside me, scrolling lazily through her phone. Across from us, our neighbor Mike was floating on a neon green inflatable ring, one arm dangling into the water, the other holding a sweating glass of lemonade. The soundtrack of the afternoon was a perfect mix. Soft splashes, low conversation, and the occasional squeal of my nephew Noah as he cannonballed into the deep end. His parents, Sarah and Daniel, were seated under the umbrella with wide-brimmed hats, keeping half an eye on him while they talked about their upcoming vacation plans. It was the kind of scene you see in lifestyle magazines. Everyone relaxed, everyone content. The world outside the pool fence didn't matter. No deadlines, no traffic, no breaking news alerts. Just the steady hum of a filter pump and the gentle flutter of leaves in the breeze. From where I sat, I could see the way the sunlight refracted through the water, bending the tiles into strange shapes, turning familiar edges into something dreamlike. I remember thinking how strange was that you could look at something you've seen hundreds of times before and suddenly notice new beauty in it. Want a drink? Emily asked, sitting up to adjust her sunglasses. I'm good, I replied, leaning back on my elbows. This is exactly what I needed. And it was true. The past week had been nothing but chaos. Late nights at work, calls from clients in different time zones, and a handful of minor crises that somehow all managed to happen on the same day. But here, with the water reflecting sunlight onto my face and the smell of grilled food teasing my appetite, I could feel the knots in my shoulders starting to loosen. Mike drifted past, giving us a lazy wave. You two look like you've achieved maximum relaxation, he said, grinning. That's the plan, Emily replied. We're not moving until the sun goes down. There was something in the air that afternoon, a kind of shared understanding among all of us that we were in the middle of something rare, a day that would be remembered, not for anything dramatic or monumental, but for its stillness, its perfection. If only we had known how quickly that stillness could shatter. Noah's laughter rang out again as he climbed the pool ladder. His hair plastered his forehead. He looked at me with a mischievous grin before running and leaping back into the water with another cannonball. A wave of cool water splashed my legs, and I laughed, wiping my face. Sarah shook her head, smiling despite herself. That kid's energy is going to run out eventually. I give him 20 minutes before he's asking for a snack. Emily checked her phone again. Oh, the group chat's blowing up. Apparently, they're doing fireworks at the park tonight. I smiled at the thought. It was a perfect ending to the perfect day. A faint breeze stirred the surface of the pool, sending the inflatable ring into a slow spin. Mike didn't even open his eyes, just let it turn him like a lazy clock hand. In the background, the faint sound of a lawnmower from a few houses away added a kind of suburban soundtrack to the moment. I remember thinking, almost superstitiously, that it was too perfect, the kind of perfection that made you nervous, like someone was bound to interrupt it. But I pushed that thought away. Days like this didn't need worrying. They needed living. It's funny how, when you're living through a moment like that, You never think you'll look back and pinpoint the exact second before things change. But in hindsight, I know that second came right then. As Noah climbed out of the pool for the third time, droplets running down his sunburned shoulders, and paused. Not to talk, not to laugh, just pause. Noah stood there for a second, dripping and motionless, the sunlight glistening on his skin like tiny jewels. His eyes weren't fixed on any of us, but on something in the distance, beyond the pool fence, toward the narrow alley between our yard and the neighbors. Before I could ask him what he was looking at, he shook his head, smiled quickly as if nothing had happened, and jumped back in with another splash. The moment passed without comment, but I tucked it away in my mind. Kids notice things adults miss. Sometimes Emily had set her phone aside now and was rummaging in the cooler by her chair. She came up with 2 cans of sparkling water, tossing one to me with the kind of accuracy only years of sibling catch games could give. "Here," she said. "Hydrate or bake, your choice." I cracked it open and took a sip. The cold fizz a sharp contrast to the lazy warmth of the afternoon. Mike floated past again, this time spinning himself in slow circles with a little flick of his hand. "So," he said, "what's everyone doing for the long weekend?" Sarah looked up from under the umbrella, squinting in the light. "We're heading to the cabin on Sunday. No Wi-Fi, no cell service, just a lake and a lot of mosquito spray." "That sounds like heaven," Emily said. "I think I'd go insane without checking my messages, though." Mike chuckled. "That's the point. You have to detox once in a while. Otherwise, you'll never notice afternoons like this." The conversation drifted from vacation plans to old summer stories. Sarah reminded us of the time 2 years ago when a sudden storm had blown in, turning the pool into a wave machine and knocking the barbecue clean off the patio. Daniel had insisted on finishing the steaks inside, while the rest of us huddled in towels, listening to the rain hammer the windows. "That was the best meal we ever had," Daniel said, grinning. "There's something about eating steak in wet swim trunks that makes it taste better." We all laughed. The kind of laugh that comes easy when the sun is warm and the air smells faintly of grill food. Noah had taken to diving for a plastic torpedo toy at the bottom of the deep end, surfacing triumphantly each time before tossing it back in and starting over. It was in one of those moments, mid-laughter, mid-sip of sparkling water, that I thought I heard something. It wasn't loud, just a faint, irregular sound like a soft metallic clink. It could have been anything. The gate latch shifting in the breeze, a tool dropped by a neighbor, or maybe just my imagination. Still, my eyes flicked toward the fence. Nothing moved. Mike noticed my glance and raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said quickly. "Just thought I heard something." Emily followed my gaze but shrugged. "Probably Mrs. Langley's cat again. That thing climbs everywhere." I forced a smile and let it go. The sound didn't come again. Daniel, oblivious, had launched into a story about his college roommate's failed attempt to build a homemade hot tub. Sarah groaned, burying her face in her hands, and Emily was already laughing before he even got to the punchline. Mike drifted closer, propping his elbows on the pool's edge to listen. As the story wrapped up, Noah came to the surface with the torpedo again, but this time instead of tossing it back and right away, he climbed out and set it down next to my chair. He stood there dripping, looking again toward that same narrow gap between the yards. "What's over there?" I asked him quietly. He hesitated, then shook his head. "Nothing. Thought I saw a dog." "A dog?" "Yeah, but it was probably just the wind." Before I could press him further, Sarah called his name, and he ran off toward her, leaving wet footprints on the patio. The afternoon wore on, the shadows stretching longer across the water. Someone turned on a portable speaker, filling the air with the mellow sound of an old jazz playlist. Mike eventually climbed out, toweling himself off and claiming a chair with a sigh. Emily got up to help Sarah bring out more snacks. Bowls of fruit, a plate of cookies, a fresh pitcher of lemonade. The 3 of them chatted easily, their voices blending with the music and the occasional splash as Noah jumped back in. I leaned back, letting the chair's fabric cradle me, my gaze drifting upward to the few clouds meandering across the sky. It was so easy to let the mind wander here, to let the warmth blur the edges of thought. But every so often, my attention kept tugging back toward that gap between the fences. I couldn't explain why. It was just an alley, overgrown with weeds and shaded by a few overhanging branches. We'd lived next to it for years. Nothing ever happened there. Daniel broke my train of thought, setting down his drink and stretching. Anyone up for a swim? It's been ages since I did a lap without being splashed by Noah. Emily grinned. Go ahead. I'll time you. They started a playful race, Emily calling out encouragement from the side, while Mike offered sarcastic commentary. Sarah clapped for Daniel as he climbed out, mock bowing. Noah, undeterred by the competition, continued his endless cycle of diving and surfacing. I joined the laughter, letting the sound wash away the earlier unease. Still, when the faint metallic clink came again, softer this time, almost hesitant, I heard it. And this time, I was sure it wasn't my imagination. The metallic clink came again, sharper this time, and I sat up straighter without realizing it. My eyes darted to the gap between the fences, but nothing moved. The shadows that were darker now, the kind that seemed to swallow detail. Mike noticed my shift in posture. Seriously, what's up? You keep looking over there like you're expecting someone. I gave a quick shrug, trying to sound casual. Just thought I heard something again. Sarah looked up from where she was slicing fruit, her hands pausing mid-motion. Heard what? Before I could answer, Noah called out from the pool. Mom, look. We all turned toward him. He was treading water near the deep end, pointing toward something floating nearby. At first, I thought it was just a stray leaf or one of his toys, but as it drifted closer, I saw it wasn't brightly colored plastic. It was small, pale, and oddly still. Mike was the first to move, stepping to the edge and leaning down. It's a glove, he said, frowning. Sarah walked over, wiping her hands on a towel. She crouched to get a better look. That's not ours. We don't even own anything like that. Daniel, who had just taken a seat again, pushed himself up and went over. It's probably blown in from somewhere. The wind's been weird today. But there was no wind now, not even a whisper. The glove bobbed on the water for a moment, then slowly rotated, revealing the inside. It was stained. I felt a small chill trace my spine, even though the air was still warm. Something about the way it floated, heavy in one finger, waterlogged, didn't sit right. Mike reached in and pulled it out, holding it by the fingertips. It's leather, he said, looking at it closely. Who wears a leather glove in the middle of summer? Daniel took it from him, examining it like it might reveal some kind of logical answer. It's definitely old. The stitching's frayed. And he trailed off, his brow furrowing. What? Sarah asked. There's something inside. He turned the glove upside down, and a small metallic object clinked against the patio stones. It was a key. No one said anything for a few seconds. The only sound was a faint slosh of water as Noah swam to the side. Curious. Mike picked up the key, holding it between thumb and forefinger. It was tarnished but still intact, with a small circular tag hanging from it. The tag had a number etched into it, 214. Emily came over, her expression caught between amusement and unease. What is this? Some kind of scavenger hunt. Daniel tried to laugh, but it came out forced. If it is, they picked the wrong pool. Sarah looked toward the fence, following my earlier glances. Could it have come from back there? Before anyone could answer, a sudden splash startled us. Noah had leapt out of the water, running toward his towel. But his expression wasn't playful this time. What is it? I asked him. He pointed toward the deep end. Something touched my foot. Daniel knelt down, scanning the water. It's probably just one of your toys. No, Noah insisted. It was big. and cold. The pool was clear, but in the deep end the sunlight didn't reach all the way to the bottom. There was a dark patch there now, one I hadn't noticed before. Mike grabbed the pool net and extended it into the water, sweeping it slowly. He didn't catch anything, just disturbed the water enough to make the patch shift and blur. "That's weird," Emily said, crossing her arms. Sarah pulled Noah closer to her. "All right, you're taking a break from the water for a bit." The earlier warmth of the afternoon had begun to thin, replaced by an odd heaviness in the air. Even the music from the portable speaker seemed quieter, as if it knew not to intrude. Daniel set the glove and key on the table, their presence oddly intrusive against the bright plastic cups and bowls of fruit. "Let's not overthink it," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I glanced once more toward the gap in the fence. For just a second, a blink, I thought I saw a movement. Not a person exactly, but a shifting of shadow, like something pulling back. For a long second, no one moved. We were all frozen, me staring toward the fence, the others glancing between the glove, the key, and the pool like we'd just been handed pieces of a puzzle with no idea where they fit. The breeze that had been missing all afternoon suddenly stirred, rustling the leaves overhead, and with it came a faint, unfamiliar smell. Not chlorine, not grilled food. Something metallic, like old coins or rusted pipes. "Did you see that?" I asked quietly. "See what?" Mike was already scanning the gap in the fence, his relaxed posture gone. There was movement. Right there. I pointed, but now it was just still shadows again. Before anyone could comment, a sound split the air, not loud, but sharp enough to make us all flinch. It was a dull thud, followed by the unmistakable squeak of the pool gate hinges. Daniel reacted first. "Who's there?" His voice was firm, protective, the kind of tone a father uses when the playfulness is gone. No answer. The gate gave another small creak, like it was swaying. Mike moved toward it, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "Don't," she whispered, and then Noah screamed. We all turned. He was standing at the pool's edge, pointing down into the water, his face pale beneath the flush of sun. "It moved! It's right there." Mike dropped to his knees, peering into the deep end. "What did you—" He didn't finish. His hand shot back like he'd been burned. Something brushed my arm. The moment cracked wide open after that. Sarah pulled Noah back, almost tripping over a chair. Emily stood up so quickly her drink toppled, spilling over the patio. Daniel was circling toward the gate, scanning the alley beyond, while Mike backed away from the pool, eyes still on the water. "What is it?" Emily demanded. "I don't know," Mike said, his voice tight, "but it's big." The stillness of the pool's surface now felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. Every small ripple seemed deliberate. The thud came again, this time from the alley side of the fence. Closer, heavier. Daniel reached the gate and yanked it open, stepping halfway into the narrow passage. "Hello? Who's back here?" From my angle, I could see over his shoulder just a strip of dirt and weeds between our property and the neighbors, empty except for a toppled trash bin near the far end. But even from here, I could hear it, slow, uneven footsteps retreating. "Someone's back there," Daniel said, starting forward. "Daniel, don't—" Sarah called, panic edging her voice. He stopped, his jaw tight, then backed up, closing the gate. "Whoever it is, they're gone now." But his tone said he didn't believe it. The uneasy silence after that felt heavy, broken only by the faint hum of the filter pump. No one seemed willing to go near the pool. And then a ripple, small, but starting in the deep end and spreading out toward the shallow side. It was followed by another, larger this time, as though something beneath the surface had shifted upward. Mike swore under his breath. "That's not the filter doing that." Sarah clutched Noah's shoulders, pulling him back toward the house. "Inside. Now." He didn't argue. Daniel moved toward her, urging her to take him in, but stay behind himself, scanning the yard. Emily followed them halfway, then stopped, looking back at me. "Call someone," she said, Now, I need to be told twice. My phone was already in my hand. I punched in 911, my fingers damp from the condensation on the gun I'd been holding earlier. The operator's voice came quickly, calm but firm. 911, what's your emergency? I took a breath, trying to make my words make sense. We're at a residential pool. Something's in the water. And someone's been in the alley behind the house. Is anyone hurt? Not yet, but I don't know what it is. It touched someone, and we found. I glanced at the table where the glove and key still lay. We found something. What exactly did you find? A glove, leather, and a key. It was in the pool. The dispatcher's tone shifted slightly, becoming sharper. Stay on the line. Is the object still there? Yes, on the table. But whatever's in the water. A sudden splash made me turn. Something, a shape long and pale, broke the surface for just a moment before vanishing again. It wasn't a person. At least, I didn't think so. Emily gasped, stepping back toward the house. Sir? The dispatcher prompted in my ear. It just surfaced. I swallowed hard. I don't know what it is. Stay away from the pool, she instructed. Are there children present? Yes. One. He's inside now. Good. Keep him there. And don't let anyone go near the water. Mike moved toward me, his voice low. What's she saying? I covered the phone. She says to stay away from the pool. The breeze picked up again, rustling the trees, carrying that same faint metallic smell. I glanced at the gate, half expecting it to swing open. And then, faint but unmistakable, from somewhere beyond the fence, came a voice. Not shouting, calling. Slowly. My name. Every muscle in my body went cold. My fingers fumbled as I reached for my phone, nearly dropping it into the shallow water at my feet. The sun still glared overhead, casting ripples of light across the pool tiles, but the warmth I'd been basking in all afternoon had completely drained away. I could barely hear myself think over the chaos. Shouts echoed off the walls. Feet slapped against wet concrete, and somewhere nearby, a child was crying uncontrollably. My hands shook so violently that it took me 3 tries to unlock my phone. Each failed attempt adding another spike of panic to the knot in my chest. I didn't even remember dialing 911. My thumb must have moved on its own, but suddenly the ringing stopped and a calm, steady voice answered, 911, what's your emergency? It was a woman. Her tone clipped but gentle, the kind of voice meant to anchor you when you felt like you were about to fall apart. I opened my mouth to speak, but my breath came out in short, shallow bursts. My throat felt tight, like every word I wanted to say was getting caught halfway. There's something wrong, I stammered, turning my head toward the pool. Someone's in the water. He's not moving. My voice cracked, the last few words breaking apart under the weight of fear. I could see movement in the pool now. People trying to pull him toward the edge, but his body was limp, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. The dispatcher's voice came through again, firmer this time. Ma'am, I need to take a deep breath and tell me exactly what's happening. Is the person breathing? I swallowed hard, forcing my eyes to stay on the scene as if looking away might make me lose track of him completely. I don't know. They're trying to get him out. He's not responding. He was fine 1 second, and then my words trailed off as a wave of guilt hit me. Had we missed the signs? Had there been something in his face, his body language, that told us this was coming? Okay, listen to me, the dispatcher said, her voice cutting to the noise like a rope I could cling to. Help is on the way. I need you to stay calm and answer my questions. How old is the person? Mid-30s, maybe a little older, I said quickly. My eyes darted toward the far end of the pool, where 2 men had just managed to haul him onto the deck. Water streamed from his clothes, forming a widening puddle beneath his still body. His skin looked pale, almost gray in his chest. I couldn't see it rise. They're starting CPR. I added, my voice trembling as one of the men tilted the man's head back while another began pressing firmly on his chest. The rhythmic thuds of each compression seemed too slow, too far apart, even though I knew they were counting in their heads. Good, the dispatcher said. Tell them to keep going. Don't stop until the paramedics arrive. Is anyone there trained in CPR? Yes, my friend's brother. He's a lifeguard. I replied quickly. He knows what he's doing. I glanced at the lifeguard, his jaw clenched, eyes locked on the man in front of him. He didn't look up once, not even when people shouted questions at him. His focus was absolute. Ma'am, I want you to stay on the line with me, the dispatcher continued. If his condition changes, you tell me immediately. Is there anything else unusual? Any sign of injury? Bleeding? Anything at all? I hesitated, scanning the man's body. His arms were limp, his legs slightly bent at odd angles. No blood, no cuts, I said slowly. But I squinted, my eyes catching on something small but strange. His lips, they're not just pale, they're kind of blue. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Just half a second, but I felt it. Blue lips? The dispatcher repeated, her voice still even, but with a weight I hadn't heard before. Okay, that's important. Keep watching him. Are there any children nearby? Make sure they're moved away from the area. I turned, raising my voice over the noise. Get the kids back. Go inside now. A couple of parents rushed to shepherd them toward the sliding doors, one little girl clinging to her mother's arm with wide, tear-filled eyes. In the background, I could hear the faint wail of sirens, distant but growing louder. They're coming, the dispatcher said, and I nodded instinctively, though she couldn't see me. I felt an ache in my chest that wasn't just fear, it was helplessness. I was here, watching unfold, but I couldn't do anything except repeat details to a voice on the phone and hope help would get here fast enough. The lifeguard kept pressing on the man's chest, his movements mechanical now. Come on, he muttered under his breath. Come on, stay with me. He paused only long enough to give 2 quick breaths before going back to compressions. The other man counted softly, his voice shaking. The dispatcher broke in again, more urgent now. Ma'am, I need you to tell me. Did this happen suddenly? Was he swimming before this? Yes, I said quickly. He was swimming, laughing. Then someone noticed he was just floating, not moving. And you didn't see him hit his head or anything? No, nothing like that. He just stopped. Another brief silence on the line. Then the dispatcher's tone shifted, still calm, but laced with something sharper, something I couldn't quite place. All right, I'm going to need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. I froze, my free hand gripping the edge of the pool, so tightly my knuckles turned white. Around me, the noise of shouts, splashing, and sirens seemed to blur into a distant hum. Whatever she was about to say, I knew it wasn't going to be good. And then, the voice on the other end didn't falter, but there was a subtle shift, the kind you only notice when you're listening for it. Ma'am, the dispatcher said slowly, I need you to get everyone away from the pool. Right now. Do not let anyone touch the water. Her words cut through the noise like a blade. I froze, the phone pressed to my ear so tightly my fingers ached. What? Why? What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling. I'll explain in a moment, she replied, her tone clipped and urgent. But you have to trust me. Step back, move everyone back. Keep at least 10 feet between you and the pool edge. Now! My chest tightened as I repeated her words, my voice loud enough to rise above the chaos. Everyone step back, away from the water. There was hesitation at first. Some people just stared at me, wide-eyed, while others glanced at each other like I just asked them to abandon a winning lottery ticket. The pool had been the center of all our attention, the place where this nightmare had started, and now I was telling them not to go near it. Why? What's wrong with the pool? A man's voice shouted from the other side. I didn't have an answer, so I didn't try to give one. Instead, I kept waving my arm, urging them back. Just move. Now. Something in my tone must have convinced them, because one by one, they stepped away, though not without muttering under their breath. I could still hear the dispatcher's steady breathing in my ear. Is anyone still in the water? She asked. I looked quickly, scanning. The pool was eerily still, except for the faint ripple that caught the light. No, I said. No one's in there now. Good. Keep it that way, she said. Do not let anyone touch it until emergency services arrive. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. You're scaring me, I whispered. There was a pause. Then she said, We received another call from your location earlier today. About an hour ago. It was a man's voice, panicked. He claimed something was in the water. What do you mean, something? I don't have full details, she admitted. But the call cut off before our operator could get more. We sent a patrol to investigate. But by the time they arrived, no one was here. We assumed it was a false alarm. Now, she let out a breath, I'm not so sure. Her words sat heavy in my chest, pulling me down. I looked at the water again. It was calm, glassy, almost too calm. Around me, the others were starting to whisper in hushed tones, casting nervous glances toward the pool like it might suddenly reach out and grab them. What exactly are you saying? I asked, my voice barely audible. I'm saying, she said, her tone sharp now, there's a possibility that what happened here isn't just a medical emergency. We don't know what it is yet, but you cannot let anyone go near that water until trained personnel get there. I felt my stomach twist. I wanted to press her for more, but she suddenly interrupted herself. Hold on, I'm getting an update. In the second, she was silent. Every sound around me became magnified. The quick, shallow breaths of the people behind me, the rustling of leaves overhead, the faint hum of an insect somewhere close. I didn't realize I'd been holding my own breath until her voice came back, firmer than before. Ma'am, has anyone been bleeding? Even a small cut? The question blindsided me. What? I don't know. Why? If anyone's blood in the water, she said, you need to make sure they're accounted for and keep them away from everyone else. The hairs on my arms rose instantly. I looked back at the group, scanning faces, shoulders, arms, my eyes darting for anything red, any bandage, any scrape. One woman, standing near the hedge, had a towel wrapped around her ankle. It was damp, and in the fading light, I thought I saw a faint rust-colored stain. My voice cracked as I asked her, Hey, are you hurt? She hesitated, looking down at the towel. I scraped my foot earlier, getting out of the pool. It's nothing. Don't touch the water again. I told her, louder than I intended. Why? What's? Before she could finish, the dispatcher's voice sharpened. Do exactly as I say. Isolate her from the group, but keep her in sight. No one touches her. No one gets near the pool, and no one leaves the area. It felt like my brain was short-circuiting. You're really starting to freak me out, I admitted, my voice breaking. I know, she said quietly, and I'm sorry, but you're safer scared than unprepared. Somewhere to my left, someone coughed sharp, sudden. Heads whipped around. The tension was suffocating now, pressing on my chest, making my movements jerky and uncertain. Help is on the way, the dispatcher continued. But I need you to keep control of that group. Whatever you do, don't let anyone fall in. I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sand. What happens if someone does? Her answer was immediate, cold, and final. Then it'll be too late.